We're back at it again with another Battlefront update. The last week in Battlefront 2 has been pretty interesting to say the least. Not only has there been a huge surge of reported bugs and complaints, but also a mass panic it seems from one of the changes taking place at DICE and EA from behind the scenes. And while this change has certainly caused distraught for a lot of people in the Battlefront 2 community, as many are worried that the return of loot boxes is maybe a thing, I'm here to tell you all today that fortunately will not be happening and why. And before we get into any of that, but a quick reminder, as if you do like these type of videos, then do remember to give it a like to show your support for not only this update series, but also the content within it. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Jumping into the most recent news of the week, which has certainly riled up a lot of people and brought a lot of different opinions, is the news that FIFA's David Rudder has made the jump to Battlefront 2. Well, technically he's now the general manager of EA Studios Europe, which oversees such studios like Ghost Games, Criterion, and DICE. So yes, he will have the power to make big changes to games like Battlefront 2, because obviously DICE is an EA studio. Previously, Rudder was a producer, then general manager on the EA FIFA series, and in 2018 he became the general manager of EA Sports Vancouver. And this is where a lot of people have started to panic, all because of Rudder's past involvement with FIFA, which of course relates to Ultimate Team mode there that generates EA millions and millions of dollars each year. It's an absurd amount of money, and EA would love the ability to implement pay-to-win systems like this in their other titles in order to make even more free-flowing easy cash. We've seen just how they tried to incorporate something like this in Battlefront 2 at the start with the pay-to-win progression system and loot boxes. And well, we all remember how great that turned out for them, don't we? Design director of Battlefront 2, Dennis Brandval, later admitted in an interview with Game Industry Biz that not a week goes by without us thinking, imagine if we hadn't launched the loot boxes the way we did. Yeah, just how much better would the game be today if that was the case? Suffice to say, DICE learned from this massive mistake and have been trying their best to win back the fans ever since. Especially making a big decision to spend a lot of time only focusing on bringing Clone Wars content to the game. Thus far, it's helped bring Battlefront 2 back from the dead, and it's hard to see DICE willing to screw that up all again. They worked so hard to remove all the elements of pay-to-win out of the game, and for them to try to bring something similar like that back now at this stage of the game's life would be nonsensical. I could see that being maybe more of a possibility in Battlefront 3 for the next-gen consoles, but now for Battlefront 2, no way. So in that case, why are we even talking about this in the first place? Well, this is exactly the discussion that David Rudder's promotion to EA Studios Europe has brought, and paranoia amongst the player base for pay-to-win mechanics coming back to Battlefront 2 is in full effect. However, as someone who used to work for EA Sports on the FIFA franchise, which I've never kept that part of my life a secret, I can tell you that a lot of this paranoia is all for nothing, and really, to my surprise, there is a lot of misinformation going around which has unfortunately sparked all of this. So hopefully I can help give you all the real facts in this video and everyone can calm down a little bit. Now, from what I've seen, the news of Rudder's promotion was first broke by Video Games Chronicle, and let me tell you, this article has a lot of inaccuracies. So having considered that, then it's of little surprise to see all the misinformation floating around because well-known YouTubers and other news outlets are all using this one article by Video Games Chronicle as their basis. This article in question claims that Ultimate Team started in FIFA 09, which was the first game that Rudder worked on as a producer on FIFA. And thus, it creates this whole narrative that Rudder is the creator and face of Ultimate Team, which of course in turn has people panicking that the guy who brought Ultimate Team to FIFA is now calling the shots over Battlefront 2. The truth fortunately isn't that grim. For starters, Ultimate Team wasn't even introduced in FIFA 09, but in another EA soccer game called UEFA Champions League 2006-2007. I know, real creative name, huh? That was a spin-off game to the FIFA series, but not part of the main line of FIFA games. Ultimate Team mode there was designed by Matt Pryor, who was a producer on UEFA Champions League and FIFA. Andrew Wilson, who I'm sure a lot of you know today as the CEO of EA, was at the time also a producer of FIFA. And he was the one who saw the potential in Pryor's mode and wanted to bring it into FIFA 09. So there you go, that's already 2 FIFA producers who brought Ultimate Team to the FIFA series. While Rudder, who was the 3rd producer, strictly focused on enhancing the actual gameplay and not really on the gimmicks. Rudder was later promoted to FIFA's premium operation, but that role was managing what EA already did with Ultimate Team to that point, which I think that's getting people worried because they don't really understand what his job there was. Another part that article also gets wrong is that it makes it seem Rudder's promotion to EA Studios Europe is very recent, like August, so that he just got there now and we should all be very afraid for all the changes he's about to implement. When in reality, he's been there for a couple of months already, since June. Ben Walk also confirmed this via Reddit, saying Rudder has been with DICE for a while now, and is a supporter of all the content announced for 2019. In addition to this, Ben also admitted to speaking with Rudder about the whole Lootbox conversation multiple times before. So they're not going to do so again. A lesson learned is a lesson earned, as the Clone Wars states. But okay, I think I said enough. Instead of going on and continuing to talk about FIFA in a Battlefront 2 video, I really wanted to quickly let people know about these facts. And again, this is all because of all the paranoia and everything that I've seen in the Battlefront 2 community about Rudder's arrival. I just think people are making too big of a thing out of nothing, and there's a lot of misinformation too that I wanted to clear up. And before anyone claims, oh, it's because you're trying to defend your old boss, that's why you're not being negative about this like everyone else. And no, that's not the case at all. Sure, I worked under Rudder for a time, and while I personally didn't know him as like we didn't go out for beers after work or anything like that, I can from my experience say that he's one of the good guys at EA who always had the best interest for the game at heart. Like seriously, I can't really say anything bad about the guy. So seeing people talk about all this negative stuff about him is really weird. While there were guys like Wilson who looked for ways to make more money off of the game, Rudder only cared about how to make the game better for the players. And there's no way you can tell me that's a bad thing. That was back in FIFA 12, and I'm sure he'll do the very same with Battlefront 2. If anything, I can say that DICE under Rudder is a very good move, because ever since Rudder left FIFA, then, well, ask any FIFA fan, as things have been very questionable with that game since to this day. Alright, but for some actual Battlefront 2 news, or actually should I say Battlefront 3 news, because that was recently the headlines when Dennis Brandvold gave an interview with PC Games N. While I'm sure there are people out there who would love nothing more for a Battlefront 3 to come out, there's also those who aren't in any rush for one and would rather to see Battlefront 2 continue to be improved upon. And that's kind of what Dennis is getting at here. As in the interview, he stressed that while Battlefront 3 isn't out of the realm of possibility, his team aren't in any rush to make it. He said this: "Sequels are probably still viable, otherwise people wouldn't be doing them. But it's not the same hunger as it used to be. We were so used to the chain of sequels where we do a sequel, then we do a season pass for a year, then move on to the next game. I think the industry has changed on that. Before, it was very transactional, and we made the game and we signed up for 4 DLCs and then that's it. So then you focus on getting value to players out of what they paid for, and if there was a system that wasn't working, then you put a pin in that and say we will fix it in the sequel. This time around, we're not doing it that way. You'll see us really overhauling bits that aren't working and not be afraid of changing things, which means that your community is happier because it's a better game overall. We're not afraid of making those changes. Whereas if we'd been working on the sequel and it was just some paid season pass, that would have been okay, we're not doing that for the sequel, but we're not gonna change it." Certainly what Dennis is saying is nothing wrong, and there's definitely a lot of truth in making your community happy with the current game, rather than rushing through it in order to get a sequel out ASAP. And from this interview, we can see DICE aren't currently developing Battlefront 3 because they're too busy making new content for Battlefront 2, which isn't too surprising given the time frame with Disney's new Star Wars movies. While actual development hasn't started, it's almost certain that DICE have already started their planning phase for Battlefront 3. And this is normal with all games development, with things being planned out long ahead of time before things get approved and actual development starts. We already heard murmurs before of DICE starting Battlefront 3 blueprints, but for the time being, they can't go past that, as they most likely need to wait on D&D's Old Republic trilogy to start so they know what they can work with and how they can design the game around it on the next-gen consoles. So while Battlefront 3 is getting planned, we won't be seeing it for a while. And because of that, DICE are tasked with making fans happy enough with Battlefront 2 so that when Battlefront 3 does come out, EA will be sure that people will actually buy it. Then again, some _info a while ago stated that Battlefront 3 could also be very well done by an entirely different studio than DICE. Which in that case, you could also see DICE working so hard right now to make Battlefront 2 as good as it could be after its disastrous launch, as a way of showing EA that they could manage making Battlefront 3 good if given the opportunity. Now, whether that rumor about a new studio working on Battlefront 3 is real or not, one thing is for sure, we won't be seeing a Battlefront 3 for a while. Lastly, the bug situation in Battlefront 2 lately, as you all know, has been not too great. Before, I used to think that July 2019 was the worst condition the game has ever been in terms of bugs and weird glitches, with everyone of course praying that the August update would eventually fix a lot of that. Unfortunately, while it did fix some things, it also introduced a lot of other problems, and now things are certainly pretty bad. It's not good. I mean, the Reddit for Battlefront 2 is a pretty scary place right now if you're a DICE quality assurance manager. And things got so bad in the game that DICE have announced that they will be introducing a hotfix next week. So yeah, you know the situation isn't good if DICE is forced to bring out a hotfix. Now, about this hotfix, instead of actually fixing the problem, DICE will only be reverting the changes made to the lightsaber combat from the August update. And yeah, I know, while the lightsaber combat before wasn't that great and had problems of its own, you still got to admit, it without a doubt is better than the result that came from the August update. While we will be back to the problems of lightsaber combat that we dealt with back in July, at least this will give DICE a bit more breathing room to cook up an actual fix to deliver in the September update later this month. At least we can only hope for. But that'll do it for this Battlefront update. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to not only support it, but keep up with Star Wars news, gaming, and canon lore released every week. And consider following me on Twitter and Facebook to never miss out on the latest Star Wars content. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.